Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're the show that, cuts through the noise to give you the essentials on complex topics. Today, we're plunging into a really foundational area of management information systems, project management. This deep dive is specifically for you, our listeners who are college students, maybe future business professionals. We want to help you grasp the key concepts, the practical applications, basically what separates success from, chaos in projects. And just so you know, all the info we're discussing, it comes straight from the textbook Connect Master, Management Information Systems by Richard Tedmon and H.Schuessler Wilhelm. That's McGraw Hill 2024 edition. So as we go, think about how this connects to your own experiences. And hey, if you find this valuable, please do like, subscribe, follow, share it, leave a comment. It helps you stay updated and keeps the conversation going.
That's absolutely right. And project management, it's not just for IT or construction anymore. I mean, really, whether you end up in marketing, finance, product development, even planning events, you will encounter projects. Understanding how to manage them effectively, that's not just a nice skill to have. It's almost like a superpower for your career and for the businesses you'll be part of.
Couldn't agree more. So let's cut to the chase. We all have daily tasks, emails, routine stuff. What makes something a project in the business world? It's got to be more than just a big task, right? What's the core difference?
Great question. Yeah, the crucial difference is that a project is specifically planned. It's an individual or maybe a team effort designed to achieve a very particular goal. And critically, it has a defined beginning and end. Routine work like answering daily emails, that's ongoing. It just keeps going. But a project like, say, developing a new software system, launching a new product line, these are typically expensive. They're complex. Lots of facets, processes, people involved, often way too big for one person to handle alone. And that's exactly where good project management principles and often project management software become absolutely essential. You need them to orchestrate all those moving parts.
Okay, so how do we nail down if something is a project? Our source material gives us a really handy framework for this, the SMART criteria.
Yes, SMART. It's a great acronym. It stands for specific objective, you need a clear target. Measurable progress, you got to be able to track how you're doing. Attainable goal, it has to be actually possible. Realistic undertaking, which ties into attainable, right? Is it feasible with the resources you have? And time-defined frame, a set beginning, and crucially, a set end, this temporary nature, that's a real hallmark of a project.
The time-defined part seems key. The textbook uses a good example, comparing Jane and Nancy Doe. Jane's doing her MIS homework. That's work, yeah. Might get done today, might not. No hard deadline, really. Just get it done. But Nancy Doe is registering for next semester's courses.
And that is a project. See the difference. Nancy's objective is specific. Register for her complete course schedule. Progress is measurable. She can see how many courses she's picked and registered for. It's attainable, assuming the system doesn't crash.
Yeah, always a risk.
Right. And it's realistic. Students usually can register in a day. And most importantly, time defined. She plans to do it today. Finish by the end of the day. That clear structure, that's what makes it a project, not just work.
So for you listening, think about maybe a group project you had, maybe one that didn't go quite as planned, or even something personal, like planning a big dinner or a road trip. Well, complexities popped up. Who was involved? Did things go off track? Recognizing those complexities, that's really the first step to seeing why project management is so important.
Exactly. Those real-world examples show why a structured approach isn't just theory. It's necessary to avoid, chaos.
Okay, let's unpack this structure then. We know what a project is. But how do you actually, manage these complex things? Every successful project seems to follow a kind of journey. What are these stages?
Journey is a good word for it. Yeah, our source lays out 4 essential phases. They provide a clear roadmap, helps ensure nothing gets missed.
Okay, phase 1, stage 1, the initiation phase. What's happening here?
This is where you lay the absolute groundwork. Seriously foundational. It's about outlining, documenting all the project requirements, and critically analyzing costs versus benefits. You identify the goals, you do feasibility studies. Is this even practical? Is it effective? You create business cases. Is it attainable, affordable? This stage also defines the project scope, the projected timeline, identifies all the stakeholders, anyone affected or involved, and it usually wraps up with a formal statement of work. It's really about asking, what is it? Why are we doing it? And is it worth it?
Right. So the example of the sports equipment business, thinking about dance gear.
Yeah.
Initiation is market studies, supplier research, checking the finances. Or the motel adding a wing because the ski resort's expanding. That's talking to the lodge, checking zoning, considering the neighbors. Seems like the dream big, then get real phase.
Precisely. Figuring out if the dream has legs. Then you move into stage 2, the planning phase.
Okay, so this is where you take that big idea and really break it down into all the little pieces. Ruthlessly.
Exactly right. Planning is dissecting the whole project into its individual parts. And a primary tool here, which we'll talk more about, is the Gantt chart. This chart helps develop budget and funding timelines. It shows exactly when each task should start and finish, and when you'll need resources, supplies, people, permits, whatever. And a really critical activity here, scheduling meetings with all stakeholders to review that Gantt chart. Make sure everyone's aligned, understands the plan, the timeline.
Gotcha. So for the dance equipment example, planning means picking the space, getting supplier prices, mapping out advertising, figuring out staffing needs. And for the motel, it's drawing up room plans, researching construction timelines, costs, dealing with those zoning issues found earlier.
Then comes stage 3, the execution phase. Now, the theory is if initiation and planning were done right, this phase should run pretty smoothly.
Should being the operative word, right? Anyone who's built flat pack furniture knows even the best plans hit snags.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where experienced managers really earn their stripes, always building in some contingency. During execution, the project manager is constantly monitoring progress, resources. This is where Gantt chart software really shines. It simplifies tracking progress in real time, managing the budget. It lets you make quick adjustments when those inevitable snags pop up.
Makes sense. And finally, stage 4. The closure phase. So you've planned, executed, survived the chaos. What happens now? Is it just relief and moving on, or is there more to it?
Oh, it's much more than just tying up loose ends. It's actually a vital part of how the organization learns and improves. In closure, you review the team's performance, you document all the lessons learned, what went right, what went wrong, what was unexpected. You compile that info for future projects. It's also when stakeholders formally discuss how well the project met their expectations. All the contracts get formally ended. All resources, used and unused, are accounted for. It's a formal wrap-up, and it fuels continuous improvement for the next big thing.
That really clicks. Those 4 stages provide a clear, systematic way to handle any project. Okay, now we've mentioned project management software a few times. It's one thing to talk concepts, but the real magic often happens with the right tools. How exactly does software help tame all this complexity? What are the key things it does?
Well, at its core, project management software really provides 2 essential functions: project scheduling and project communications. And these 2 things are constantly interacting, giving the manager visibility and control throughout the whole project lifecycle.
Okay, so let's talk specific tools within that software. Our source highlights 3 key ones: flowcharts, Gantt charts, and period charts. Starting with flowcharts, what are they best for?
Flowcharts are incredibly useful for visually mapping out the process. Their main value is helping all stakeholders, especially the non-technical ones, clients, investors, easily understand the flow. Projects have multiple steps, some sequential, some parallel. Flowcharts highlight the major activities, the decision points. They alert everyone to important checkpoints and what needs to happen next. Great for that initial broad understanding.
Are they hard to make? Some look like spaghetti diagrams.
Not really, especially with modern software. They're usually drag and drop simple. A lot of project managers actually start with a flowchart before moving to more complex tools. It's a good building block, helps everyone grasp the goals and the steps, reduces anxiety about what's happening. The elements are basic: oval for start 10, arrow for direction, rectangle for a process, diamond for a decision. Simple.
Okay. Next up, the Gantt chart. You see these everywhere in project management. Why are they so popular?
They really are the most widely used tool. A Gantt chart breaks the project down into component tasks, that's on the y-axis, and shows the estimated time for each on the x-axis, the timeline. They're crucial during planning because they visually show start dates, finish dates, and this is critical. They clearly illustrate when different processes can happen concurrently. Really helps visualize overlaps and dependencies.
So more detail than a flowchart, but still very visual.
Exactly. Because they have more detail, Gantt charts are primarily used by the internal project teams and maybe direct clients who need that sort of granular view. Project managers use software to build them, breaking down flowchart processes, estimating times, and the software makes it easy to update them in real time, even convert them to PERT charts.
Right, which brings us to PERT charts. Program evaluation and review technique. These sound even more advanced. What's the big insight they offer?
PERT charts reveal the critical interdependencies. They let you see the true bottlenecks in a complex project. The insight is pretty profound. By understanding which activities truly dictate your overall timeline, you can strategically shift resources away from less critical tasks to speed up the whole project.
Finding the lever that moves the whole thing faster.
Exactly. PERT was actually developed for hugely complex projects like building aircraft or planning the Olympics. It displays how all the processes interconnect, including those running concurrently. It's often used when time is absolutely critical, maybe more so than cost. You map out optimistic, pessimistic, and realistic completion times for every activity, and the software crunches it all to show you the true critical path.
That's a great overview of the tools. So what does this all mean when we get into more advanced project management concepts? How do these tools help us understand things like task dependencies?
Right, dependencies. This addresses a fundamental question. How do tasks relate to each other? Think of dependencies as the project's DNA. They dictate the basic sequence. Like, you can't start framing a house the next task until the concrete foundation, the first task, is completely poured and cured. That's a finish-to-start dependency. Non-negotiable in many cases.
And there are different types.
Yep, 4 main types. Finish to start, FS. Mandatory, like the concrete example. One must finish before the next begins. Finish to finish, FF. More discretionary. Tasks might be independent, but maybe both need to finish around the same time for the project to be considered complete. Start to start, SS. One task can't begin until another one has already started. Start to finish, SF. This one's less common. It means one task isn't truly complete until the next one is started.
Okay. And these can be internal, things the PM controls, or external, like waiting on a supplier.
Correct. Internal dependencies are within the team's control. External ones rely on outside factors, permits, deliveries, client approvals, that sort of thing.
Got it. And these dependencies, especially in complex projects, lead us to the critical path method, or CPM. This sounds like finding the absolute fastest way through.
It's sort of like that. Software is really essential here. Based on all those interconnections and dependencies in the PERT network, the software calculates the critical path. That's a specific sequence of activities that will take the longest time to complete. And as things progress, this path updates constantly, always showing you the most constrained sequence. So the critical path schedule establishes that longest path, which determines the earliest possible project completion date. It also helps managers see where there's slack time in non-critical activities.
So you know where you have some wiggle room and where you absolutely don't.
Exactly, which lets you allocate resources efficiently, focus attention where it's most needed.
So if you need to speed things up, you laser focus on those critical tasks.
Precisely. And that leads to something called crash duration or project crashing. This means applying additional resources, maybe more people, more equipment, over time specifically to those critical path activities to shorten their duration. This speeds up the whole project, but the trade-off is almost always increased cost. Time really is money in this context.
Makes total sense. Okay, what about resource assignment and leveling? How do you make sure you're using your team and resources effectively, not burning people out or having them sit idle?
Resource leveling is about intelligently adjusting when tasks get done to make the best use of limited resources. Think about it. If you only have, say, 3 highly specialized engineers, but 4 tasks need them at the same time, something has to give. Project management software can help here by identifying those limiting factors, the engineers in this case, and providing recommendations for shuffling tasks around. It optimizes who does what when, so you don't hit resource bottlenecks.
That sounds crucial for keeping things running smoothly. And speaking of the bigger picture, our source mentions project scheduling and sequencing. Is that different from just managing one project?
It is, and it's an important distinction. Often, project planning refers to those first 2 stages, initiation and planning, may be done by a dedicated planner designing the roadmap. Project management then focuses more on the execution phase, led by the PM or the team driving it forward. Closure involves both. But sequencing activities, that's about charting all activities across all the projects a company is doing its entire portfolio.
The firm level view.
Exactly. It's about allocating equipment, personnel, and other resources efficiently across everything the firm has going on, not just optimizing a single project in isolation.
That's a really key difference, especially for larger organizations juggling multiple initiatives. Which leads us neatly into managing multiple projects and unknowns. How do businesses handle a whole portfolio without dropping the ball somewhere?
Well, that's where project portfolio management, PPM software, becomes really valuable. Firms, sometimes have a tendency to bite off more than they can chew. They take on more projects than they can realistically handle with the resources they have. PPM software helps them avoid that overcommitment. It assists in allocating resources appropriately across the portfolio and helps determine if taking on another project is feasible and profitable. The goal is really to maximize the firm's overall efficiency, aligning projects with strategic goals while being realistic about limitations.
Okay. And what are the unknowns, the risks? Seems like every project hits something unexpected. The elephant in the room, right?
Absolutely. Risk management is a constant concern, sort of a dance with uncertainty for any PM. They often refer to the project management body of knowledge, the PMBOK guide. PMBOK outlines 6 key processes for risk assessment: planning how you'll manage risk, identifying specific risks, analyzing them qualitatively, then quantitatively, planning responses, and finally monitoring and controlling them throughout the project. But it's challenging. Really challenging, because every project is unique. Individual PMs often don't have a ton of historical data for that specific type of project risk. You typically calculate risk exposure by multiplying the probability of the risk happening by its potential impact if it does, but it's still often a best guess.
Which is why maybe tools like earned value management, EVM, are so important to get a more concrete grip on progress versus cost.
Exactly. EVM is a powerful technique for monitoring progress and controlling costs simultaneously. It tracks what's often called the project triangle: scope, time, and costs. It works by calculating the earned value, essentially. You multiply the percentage completion of each task by its total budgeted value.
Yeah.
So if your actual costs start creeping higher than the value you've technically earned based on progress, that's a clear quantitative flag. It tells you, hey, reassess your cost assumptions, maybe take corrective action. It's like an early warning system for budget overruns.
Okay, that provides a clearer financial picture. And for getting an even more accurate handle on timelines and costs, there's the Monte Carlo simulation. Sounds complex, almost like gambling.
It sounds fancy, but it's actually really useful. Monte Carlo simulations help estimate project timelines and costs more accurately, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty. It takes those optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely duration estimates for each activity, the ones you might develop for a PERT chart, and runs them through a simulation program, like thousands of times. What you get isn't one single definitive answer like, it will finish on June 15th. Instead, you get a range of outcome probabilities.
So it tells you the likelihood of finishing by a certain date or within a certain budget range, not just a fixed point. That feels much more realistic.
It is. That's the real value. It shows the degree of uncertainty involved, both for the client and the project team. It can also force planners to be more realistic about activity durations instead of just hoping for the best. Honestly, it's often more responsible to tell a client there's an 80% probability we'll finish by July 1st, rather than just stating a definitive date based on potentially shaky assumptions.
But the accuracy still depends on good inputs, right? Garbage in, garbage out.
Oh, absolutely. The quality of the simulation results depends entirely on the quality and realism of the initial time and cost estimates provided by the project manager.
Wow. We have covered a ton of ground today, really dove deep into project management, from defining a project with SMART through the 4 stages: initiation, planning, execution, closure. We looked at tools like flowcharts, Gantt, PRT, and then advanced concepts, dependencies, critical path, risk, EVM, even Monte Carlo. This should really give you, as students and future professionals in MIS, management operations, a really solid foundation for tackling project complexity. So here's something to think about. We talked about how tools like Monte Carlo give us probabilities, not certainties. How do you think understanding and communicating that inherent uncertainty to clients or stakeholders, how does that change the role of a project manager today? In this fast-paced world, what really stands out to you as the most impactful takeaway from our discussion? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share. It helps us keep these deep dives coming. Thanks so much for listening.